Welcome back to ABC General Hospital Spoilers channel. Today, we will learn about the issue that could potentially unravel one of Port Charles' most explosive mysteries. A seemingly innocent detail, a simple ringtone, may be the key that unlocks the truth behind Drew Cain's near-fatal shooting. And what Trina Robinson and Kai Taylor discover in the coming episodes could shake the foundation of everything we thought we knew about that terrifying night. The investigation into Drew's shooting has been shrouded in confusion and misdirection from the very beginning, while law enforcement officials have been scrambling to piece together the events of that fateful evening. Two unlikely amateur detectives have been conducting their own covert investigation. Trina and Kai, who found themselves in an extraordinarily dangerous position that night, have managed to keep their presence at the scene completely hidden from the authorities. Their silence wasn't born from any desire to obstruct justice, but rather from the complex web of circumstances that made revealing their location that evening incredibly complicated and potentially damaging to both of their futures. Despite their decision to remain anonymous witnesses, Trina and Kai haven't been content to simply stay silent and hope the police eventually solve the case on their own. Instead, they've taken it upon themselves to launch a private investigation determined to identify the person who pulled the trigger and nearly ended Drew's life. Their unique perspective as hidden witnesses gives them access to details and observations that even the most thorough police investigation might have missed. They were there, concealed in the bedroom, experiencing every terrifying moment as it unfolded in real time. The sounds, the timing, the sequence of events, all of it is burned into their memories with crystal clarity. Among all the sensory details from that night, one particular element has risen to prominence in their recollection: a distinctive ringtone that played at a critical moment during the shooting. The melody of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star chimed through the tense atmosphere, and in the immediate aftermath of that sound, something remarkable happened. The shooter, who had just fired at Drew with deadly intent, appeared to panic. The ringtone seemed to startle the assailant, triggering a hasty retreat from the scene. This unexpected interruption may very well have saved Drew's life, preventing the shooter from ensuring their victim was actually dead or from firing additional shots. Based on this crucial observation, Trina and Kai have constructed a working theory about what transpired. They believe that Scout Quartermain, Drew's young daughter, called her father at precisely the right moment, and that the distinctive ringtone Drew had set specifically for her calls startled the shooter into fleeing prematurely. It's a heartwarming narrative, in many ways the idea that a daughter's innocent phone call inadvertently saved her father's life. Drew has indeed confirmed that he uses Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star as Scout's designated ringtone, a sweet and sentimental choice that reflects his love for his daughter and the nursery rhyme's significance in their relationship. However, what if this seemingly straightforward explanation is completely wrong? What if the ringtone Trina and Kai heard that night wasn't coming from Drew's phone at all? This is where the investigation takes a potentially explosive turn, one that could implicate someone no one has seriously considered as a suspect until now. The revelation centers on Willow Cain, Drew's former lover, and the woman currently standing trial for his attempted murder, though not because she actually committed the crime, but because she's being framed as part of a larger conspiracy. Here's the shocking possibility that's beginning to emerge. What if Willow also has Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star set as the ringtone for Scout, as Wiley and Amelia's mother and Scout's stepmother through her marriage to Michael? It would make perfect sense for Willow to have a special ringtone designated for the children in her blended family. Scout, despite being Drew's daughter with Sam, has connections to Willow's household and life. Setting a sweet, recognizable melody like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star would be exactly the kind of thoughtful, maternal gesture Willow would make to ensure she never misses an important call from one of the children in her care. If this theory proves accurate, it would completely reshape the narrative of what happened that night. Instead of hearing Drew's phone ring as Scout tried to reach her father, Trina and Kai might have actually been hearing Willow's phone because Willow herself was present in the house, weapon in hand. having just pulled the trigger in an attempt to end Drew's life. This possibility would transform what seemed like an alibi-confirming detail into damning evidence of Willow's presence at the scene of the crime. The implications of this discovery are staggering. Trina and Kai, in their determination to uncover the truth, are likely to stumble upon this connection at the most dramatic moment possible. Their investigation has led them to attend Willow's trial, where they hope to observe proceedings, gather additional information, and potentially piece together more clues about the shooter's identity. During one of the court breaks, or perhaps in the immediate aftermath of a potential acquittal if Willow manages to walk free from the charges against her, fate might intervene in the form of an innocent phone call. Picture this scenario unfolding. Trina and Kai are present in or near the courtroom, possibly observing Willow as she experiences relief at a favorable development in her trial. Suddenly, Scout places a call to Willow's phone, perhaps to check in with her stepmother about something related to Wiley and Amelia, or simply to share something from her day. The familiar melody of Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star begins to play from Willow's phone, the sound cutting through the ambient noise of the courthouse corridor. In that instant, Trina and Kai would freeze, their eyes meeting in stunned recognition as they realize they're hearing the exact same sound that echoed through Drew's house on the night of the shooting. The realization would hit them like a physical blow. The ringtone they've been using as their primary clue to piece together the events of that night, the sound they believed proved Scout's call to Drew, interrupted the shooter suddenly, takes on an entirely different meaning. If Willow has the same ringtone set for Scout, then it's entirely possible that the phone they heard ringing that night belonged to the shooter herself. Willow could have been standing over Drew's bleeding body when Scout called her instead of Drew, and that interruption caused her to panic and flee before finishing what she'd started. This revelation would also provide a crucial missing piece in understanding Drew's memory loss regarding the shooting. Despite surviving the attack, Drew has been unable to recall specific details about his assailant, including their identity. This selective amnesia has frustrated both investigators and Drew himself, who desperately wants to identify the person who tried to kill him. However, traumatic brain injuries and the psychological shock of surviving an attempted murder often result in fragmented or completely blocked memories of the actual assault. The ringtone connection might serve as the key that unlocks Drew's suppressed memories. Hearing Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star in a specific context, perhaps when Scout calls Willow in his presence, or when he's confronted with the theory that Willow was his shooter, could trigger a cascade of returning memories. The sound might transport him back to that moment, lying wounded on the floor, looking up at his assailant as the familiar melody played from their phone. In that reconstructed memory, he would finally see Willow's face, her expression a mixture of determination and panic as she raised the gun to fire at him a second time before being startled into retreat by the unexpected phone call. The General Hospital writing team has demonstrated a deliberate pattern in how they've woven this ringtone detail throughout the storyline. It hasn't been a throwaway element mentioned once and forgotten. Instead, the writers have repeatedly called attention to it, ensuring viewers recognize its significance. This careful narrative construction strongly suggests that the ringtone will indeed serve as a pivotal plot device, one that ultimately exposes the true events of that night and identifies the real shooter. Trina and Kai's amateur investigation, fueled by their determination to see justice served and their unique knowledge as eyewitnesses, positions them perfectly to make this critical discovery. They've already demonstrated remarkable courage and ingenuity in gathering information while avoiding detection by both the police and potentially dangerous individuals who might wish to silence them. Their persistence in pursuing answers, even when facing potential risks to their own safety, speaks to their integrity and their commitment to ensuring the truth comes to light. As they continue their investigation, attending the trial and looking for any detail that might confirm or refute their theories about the shooting, they're bound to encounter numerous shocking revelations. The path to truth is rarely straightforward, especially in Port Charles, where secrets, lies, and betrayals are woven into the very fabric of the community. Each new piece of information they uncover might lead to more questions, more suspects, and more complex connections between the various players in this dangerous game. The potential confrontation between Trina, Kai, and Willow, should they realize the ringtone connection, would be incredibly tense and fraught with danger. Willow, if she is indeed the shooter, has already demonstrated her willingness to kill to protect her secrets or achieve her goals. Confronting her directly would put both young investigators at serious risk. They would need to tread carefully, gathering irrefutable evidence before revealing what they know to anyone who could use that information to ensure justice is served without putting themselves in the crosshairs. The coming episodes promise to deliver explosive revelations as this mystery inches closer to its resolution. The ringtone that once seemed like evidence of a daughter's life-saving call may instead become proof of a stepmother's murderous intent. Trina and Kai's investigation, conducted in the shadows while they evade official scrutiny, stands poised to crack wide open a case that has baffled Port Charles' finest investigators. When the truth finally emerges, it will undoubtedly send shockwaves through multiple families and relationships, destroying some bonds while potentially healing others that have been damaged by false accusations and misdirected suspicion. Next, we will learn about the shocking and dramatic return of Brad Cooper to Port Charles, and how his comeback is about to create waves of chaos, intrigue, and unexpected alliances that could forever alter the lives of several beloved characters in ways no one saw coming. Brad Cooper's triumphant and controversial return. Brad Cooper is making his way back to Port Charles with all the confidence and cunning that fans have come to expect from this complicated character. His return isn't just a simple homecoming, it's an explosive event that promises to shake the very foundations of several key relationships in town. After months of absence, Brad's reappearance brings with it a whirlwind of emotions, unresolved conflicts, and dangerous possibilities that could spiral out of control at any moment. The most anticipated aspect of Brad's return is undoubtedly his reunion with Britt Westburn, a woman he believed to be gone forever. Like everyone else in Port Charles, Brad had accepted the heartbreaking news of Britt's death, mourning the loss of one of his closest friends and most trusted confidants. The revelation that Britt is alive will initially leave Brad in a state of shock and disbelief. His first reaction might even be anger at being deceived, anger at the pain he endured thinking she was gone, and anger at the circumstances that forced Britt to fake her own death in the first place. However, once the initial storm of emotions subsides, Brad will be absolutely thrilled to have his partner in crime back. These two share a bond that goes beyond ordinary friendship. They understand each other's flaws, accept each other's questionable moral choices, and have always had each other's backs, no matter how messy things got. Their reunion will be emotional, intense, and filled with the kind of raw honesty that only true friends can share after being separated by what they thought was death itself. New living arrangements and fresh starts. With both Brad and Britt finding themselves in need of stable housing, practical considerations will quickly come into play. Brad might initially consider getting a room at Bobby's establishment, a familiar and relatively affordable option that would allow him to settle back into Port Charles life without too much fanfare. The idea of staying at Bobby's has a certain nostalgic appeal, offering Brad a connection to his past and to the community he once called home. But an even more appealing option emerges when Brad and Britt consider pooling their financial resources together. By combining their money, these two could secure a much more comfortable and private living space, something that would give them the freedom to operate without constant scrutiny from others. A shared apartment or house would provide them with a home base from which to rebuild their lives, scheme when necessary, and support each other through whatever challenges lie ahead. This living arrangement would also serve as a physical symbol of their renewed partnership and their commitment to facing the future together. Portia Robinson and the lab test dilemma. One of the most explosive developments in Brad's return storyline involves his potential reconnection with Portia Robinson, Port Charles General Hospital's chief of staff. Red-hot spoilers indicate that Brad will be making contact with Portia, but the question remains, what exactly are his intentions? Is he planning to blackmail her with information from their past? Is he genuinely seeking employment in the hospital's laboratory? Or perhaps, in the most intriguing twist of all, could it be both? The timing of Brad's return couldn't be more convenient or more suspicious. Portia finds herself in an incredibly delicate and complicated situation. She's pregnant, and the identity of her baby's father is uncertain. The two possible candidates are Curtis Ashford, who is currently involved with Jordan Ashford, and Isaiah Gannon, who has been nothing more than a passionate but casual fling up to this point. The stakes couldn't be higher for Portia, both personally and professionally. This is where Brad's particular skill set becomes relevant in the most troubling way possible. Brad has a notorious history when it comes to laboratory work specifically. He's known for his ability and willingness to switch test results when it serves his purposes or benefits someone willing to pay the price. He's the exact kind of person you'd want on your side if you needed medical results to say something other than what they actually say. And Portia knows this all too well. The moral dilemma facing Portia is profound and heart-wrenching. She has the opportunity to determine who the father of her child will be recorded as, regardless of biological truth. If Curtis is the father, her relationship with him could potentially be salvaged and strengthened. If Isaiah is the father, she faces the complicated task of building something more substantial with a man who is supposed to be just a temporary escape. The temptation to manipulate the results must be overwhelming. Our predictions strongly suggest that Portia will be prepared to offer Brad whatever he demands, whether that's money, a job position, protection from legal consequences, or leverage over hospital matters in exchange for rigging the paternity test results in her favor. She might convince herself that she's making this choice for the sake of her child's future or for the stability of her own life. But the reality is that she would be crossing a dangerous ethical line that could come back to haunt her in devastating ways. Brad's laboratory activities beyond paternity tests. But the paternity test manipulation might not be the only questionable activity Brad engages in once he gains access to the hospital laboratory. His return to Port Charles coincides with Britt's ongoing health crisis, and this connection opens up another potentially dangerous avenue for Brad's talents to be exploited. Britt Westburn is being held in a position of vulnerability because someone controls access to experimental medications that could treat her Huntington's disease. This isn't just about managing symptoms. These are cutting-edge treatments that could potentially slow or even halt the progression of a devastating neurological condition. The person or organization holding these medications over Britt's head has enormous power over her life and her future. This is where Brad's pharmaceutical and laboratory expertise could prove invaluable to his best friend. If anyone could help Britt reverse engineer the experimental Huntington's medication she desperately needs, it would be Brad. His knowledge of chemistry, his experience manipulating laboratory results and processes, and his complete willingness to operate outside legal and ethical boundaries make him the perfect candidate for this risky endeavor. The idea gains even more credibility when we recall that Jason Morgan specifically advised Britt to reverse engineer her medications. Jason wouldn't have made that suggestion unless he believed it was possible and potentially necessary for Britt's survival. And who better to assist in this complex and illegal medical operation than Brad Cooper, a man with both the skills and the moral flexibility to pull it off. If Brad successfully helps Britt duplicate her medications, she would gain independence from whoever has been controlling her access to treatment. She could secure her own medical future without being forced to comply with whatever demands are being made of her. The freedom this would provide could be life-changing, allowing Britt to make decisions based on what's right rather than what's necessary for her survival. The Lucas Jones complication. While Brad deals with Portia's situation and helps Britt with her medical crisis, he won't be able to ignore the elephant in the room: his complicated feelings for his ex-husband, Lucas Jones. Brad isn't over Lucas, not by a long shot. Their relationship may have ended badly, plagued by Brad's lies and manipulations, but the emotional connection between them hasn't been severed. Brad still cares deeply about Lucas, still wants what's best for him, and still harbors feelings that go beyond simple friendship or nostalgia. The situation becomes even more complicated because Brad is aware that Lucas has moved on romantically. Lucas is now seeing Marco Rios, and their relationship appears to be developing into something serious. Brad witnessed Lucas and Marco flirting together at a medical conference in Miami, and the sight of Lucas being happy with someone else must have been like a knife to Brad's heart. Seeing the man you still love building a connection with another person is painful under any circumstances, but it's especially agonizing when you know you're responsible for destroying your own chance at happiness with that person. But Brad's concern about Lucas and Marco isn't purely selfish or driven solely by jealousy. Brad's instincts are telling him that something isn't right about Marco Rios. There's something suspicious about this new man in Lucas's life, something that sets off alarm bells in Brad's naturally suspicious mind. Brad needs to discover what Marco is really up to, what his true intentions are regarding Lucas, and whether Lucas is in danger. Selena Wu's potential involvement. To investigate Marco properly, Brad might need to call in some serious backup, and that's where his Aunt Selena Wu enters the picture. Selena is not someone you want to cross. She's connected, powerful, and has access to information and resources that most people couldn't even imagine. If anyone can dig up dirt on Marco Rios, uncover his secrets, and reveal his true agenda, it's Selena Wu. Brad's relationship with his aunt is complicated, but when family needs family, Selena has shown herself willing to step up and provide assistance. She would certainly be intrigued by the challenge of investigating someone who might pose a threat to her nephew's ex-husband. Selena operates in the shadows of Port Charles society, and she has eyes and ears everywhere. No secret stays hidden from her for long. The investigation into Marco's background could reveal shocking information. Perhaps Marco has connections to organized crime. Maybe he's working for someone who wants to use Lucas for their own purposes, or possibly he has a hidden agenda that could put Lucas in genuine danger. Whatever Brad and Selena discover, it's likely to be explosive and potentially life-threatening. The challenge of warning Lucas. However, uncovering the truth about Marco is only half the battle. The other, potentially more difficult half, is getting Lucas to actually listen to and believe Brad's warnings. Lucas has been burned by Brad before badly burned, and his trust in his ex-husband was shattered by years of lies and manipulation. Rebuilding that trust, or even getting Lucas to give him the benefit of the doubt, will be an uphill battle. Lucas has also been reluctant to listen to warnings from Carly, someone who genuinely cares about him and wants to protect him. If Lucas won't listen to Carly, someone he knows has his best interests at heart, why would he listen to Brad, the man who caused him so much pain? The evidence against Marco would need to be absolutely overwhelming and undeniable for Lucas to even consider taking Brad's concerns seriously. This puts Brad in an incredibly frustrating position. He might have solid proof that Lucas is in danger, that Marco is not who he pretends to be, and that Lucas needs to end this relationship before something terrible happens. But if Lucas refuses to listen, refuses to look at the evidence, and dismisses Brad's warnings as jealous manipulation, then all of Brad's efforts will be for nothing. The helplessness of knowing the truth, but being unable to convince someone you care about to believe you, is a special kind of torture. Brad's ultimate sacrifice. The most profound question facing Brad Cooper as all these storylines converge is this: how far is he willing to go to protect the two people who mean the most to him in this world, Britt Westburn and Lucas Jones? These two individuals represent Brad's capacity for genuine love and loyalty despite all his flaws and questionable choices. They've seen him at his worst and, at times, have still chosen to stand by him. They matter to Brad in a way that few other people do. If Brad found himself in a situation where he could save both Britt and Lucas from danger, but only at the cost of his own life or freedom, would he make that sacrifice? Is Brad Cooper capable of true selflessness of putting the lives and happiness of others ahead of his own survival and interests. This question goes to the very heart of who Brad is as a person and whether his experiences have fundamentally changed him or merely taught him to be more careful with his schemes. The evidence suggests that yes, Brad would absolutely sacrifice himself for Britt and Lucas, despite his many flaws, his willingness to lie, cheat, and manipulate, his disregard for ethical boundaries, his history of making spectacularly bad decisions. Brad has always demonstrated fierce loyalty to the people he truly cares about. When pushed to the wall, when the stakes are literally life and death, Brad has shown that he's capable of remarkable courage and genuine heroism. His love for Britt and Lucas isn't just words or performance, it's real, deep, and powerful enough to potentially drive him to the ultimate sacrifice. The only question is whether circumstances will demand that price, and whether Brad will be ready to pay it when the moment comes.